I'm going to introduce you to a Team USA member, Pete Erickson from Boise, Idaho. He's going to introduce you to Spanish nymphing. How'd you find out about this?
Team USA, we were in Spain, and we were lucky enough to be guided by a two-time national champion, and he got out on the river and started doing something that looked really, really weird to us. And we asked him if he would show us how to do it, and he said, yeah.
One of the big aspects of this is that you use a longer leader.
Sometimes up to 27 feet.
But there was something that Aitor, and that was his name, introduced it to, and that was a section of colored leader. It was golden in color.
Yeah, you can use a couple different kinds. He also used fluorocarbon, red, yellow, even green too.
In America, the leader lengths aren't usually that long, are they?
No, and in fact, when I teach people how to Spanish nymph, I usually start them out with a 9-foot Spanish nymphing leader because it's easier to handle, you know.
But Aitor used, what, up to 28 feet?
Yeah, he said, I mean, we did the math on the metrics because I'm not so good with that, but it was probably pushing 30 feet.
But the flies are the same as what we use in regular European nymphing?
Vladi's flies actually work really well with this technique, and in fact, Aitor used a lot of Vladi flies.
So we're going to go out on the Big Thompson. You just finished the National Fly Fishing Championship. How'd you do?
I'm tired. I just got off the river a couple minutes ago. I don't know what the final standings will be, but I was second going into today, and keep my fingers crossed that I stayed up there toward the top.
Well, the technique is going to have some similarities, but the way this is rigged up, and there are some things that you're going to learn here that's going to work on your water. So let's get started on the Big Thompson.
Yeah, this looks like a great stretch of river for this.
Yeah, it's great. That beautiful day, too. You know, when we're walking down, we were talking about this technique uses more line and leader than the traditional Polish and Czech European techniques.
It does. That's one of the reasons that I like it so much. You actually get to use a little bit of fly line, and the leaders are much longer too.
I noticed you have a section, it looks like about 2 feet of, I would call it golden strand.
You could certainly use golden strand.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different colored monofilaments, colored fluorocarbons that you can use as this, basically it's an indicator. And it's a key component to the Spanish nymphing style.
This can be more visual than probably the other technique, as you can see that.
It is, it's fun.
One of the important parts of Spanish nymphing is you can really fish deep water well in heavy, fast raging rivers.
Heavy, fast water. Well, think about it. You've got straight fluorocarbon, so it sinks like a rock. And plus you have long leaders, so you have reach. In case you can't get to something, you can fish a seam on the other side of a boulder or a deep pool.
You know where I know this would really work well is in New Zealand.
Oh, I'm sure.
Where you had to go deep into some of those deep pools right on the bottom.
Another thing that's beautiful about Spanish nymphing is it's great for spooky fish.
Oh, that's another thing. I noticed that we've got some spooky fish in front of us here, and we're down in the water.
Well, absolutely. This is a great looking hole, but I think some of these fish are kind of wary of us right now.
Well, it's bright sun, October day. Well, let's get started. Okay. Now, this is, again, no false casting, right?
Right, with a leader that's, I'm probably going to go with about a 12 or 13 foot leader. I usually recommend when I instruct on Spanish nymphing, start with about a 9. It's much easier to cast, but I'm going to go with a little bit bigger. And you can't false cast or else you'll tangle it. So you get one lob.
One lob. All right.
And I'll lob it. And then there's a lot of maintenance here. I got to bring that indicator up a little bit.
Oh, I can see it right out of the water.
And I see the backward C.
Yep.
That would let me know if I have a fish. And see, I just checked to see if I had one.
Yep.
And I'm back in. And you got to check it, whether it's a rock or a fish. You got to check everything. And there you go. You can even have it swing out, and maybe even twitch the flies a little bit at the end, yeah, which is kind of a nice part of this technique as well.
Good swimming caddis technique.
You can do just about anything with Spanish nymphing. I like to, the main use really is Polish nymphing from a distance.
Polish nymphing from a distance, that's a good way to put it.
Now, if I can free myself up here, watch, I'm going to lead the flies after I lob it into this hole. Now, of course, I just did a false cast, but you're not supposed to. Watch, see how I'm leading the flies? They're actually cruising along.
This cast is interesting. It's different than Vladi's cast, isn't it?
Yes, it's actually called a lob. And if you watch, I lead with the back of my hand, and that lob actually gives me a tuck cast.
Boy, Itor was a master of it, wasn't he?
Oh,
Rockfish.
little rock. Watch.
So he was the master of that lob.
You lead with the back of the hand, and it actually tuck casts in. You dial in to where you can see your indicator and float through the hole.
And you're just increasingly going further into the hole, aren't you?
Yep, I'm working my way over right now.
This would be a great technique for using like a girdle bug or even a woolly bug or yuck bug.
True, I have not found a fly that doesn't respond to this technique. I really haven't. It's a pretty cool technique. You can even do it with emergers, small nymphs. I really like the Polish nymphs for this stuff. And that's what I have on right now. We'll see if these brown trout respond to the Polish nymph. I will add a little line. Here's the beauty of this. You can just keep adding line.
Yeah, so you don't have to position yourself while Vladdy takes steps forward. He casts the same amount of line each time.
Yeah, exactly. I can add line. Well, if I manage my line a little bit better. There. Adding line, coming up. There's a big rock right there I got to stay away from. Surprised I didn't get a fish on that one right there. There we go. Now, one thing with Spanish nymphing that is a little bit tricky is if you get a real strong wind blowing upstream, it can mess with you a little bit.
Hard to lob into a heavy wind.
My advice for lobbing into a heavy wind is to use a heavier anchor.
Heavier anchor, yeah.
Yep.
Just bullet it through.
Yep. And what'll happen is you won't have quite the nice backward C with your leader, but you'll still be able to keep it down there and control it.
Nice swing.
And there's the lob. What you got to do is immediately strip in line so you can bring up your leader. Oh, that may have been a little bump right there. Got two flies on here, one dropper. They're both out of Vladdy's box. And that little ledge should produce a fish for us right there. Now that wind's starting to mess with me a little bit, but I should be able to get it in there. I have a heavy enough anchor. Hey, maybe I have too heavy of an anchor.
Yeah.
Fly shops love this technique.
Yeah, be prepared with any of the Euro techniques to lose a few flies.
There we go. I'm going to go up a little bit higher on this thing.
Oh, there it goes tight. Well, you can really see that.
That was a rock, but yeah, you have a lot of visibility on the indicator. See how you can see every single rock? That's one of the things I love about this technique.
Now you can use green or red or any bright colored leader material.
Yep. One of the keys too is to have a 10-foot rod.
Yeah.
You can certainly do it with another rod, but it's sure nice to reach up here.
Some of these light spay rods would be perfect for this.
They would actually work for this. Well, let's dance around that rock a little bit more.
Oh, tight again.
Yep. Now, see, you can actually, without hanging up on a rock, just kind of glance off of them. So the palm up enables you to flip that lob where you want it. It's actually pretty accurate. It may look like it's hard to be accurate that way, but you eventually get it. Another nice byproduct of this, of holding the rod this way, is that you almost always throw a nice tuck cast.
Now, one thing that I noticed that you're actually shooting some line, which Vladdy isn't.
Well, another advantage of Spanish nymphing is that you get to actually use some fly line. Let's say that the hole is, 25 feet away. I'll do a little demonstration.
There's the advantage of having a longer rod.
All of a sudden I can say I want to go to that rock over there. And depending on how good of a lobber you are, you can shoot it over there. And then you actually have fly line on the water.
Yeah,
now I watched him shoot up to 45 feet of line with this style. Granted, it was a much bigger river than this, but it was really cool. He would shoot it through here and hold it with his hand.
Wow.
Amazing. But so it's a versatile technique.
Well, it adds to one more element of fishing without a true indicator, or float, or bobber, whatever you want to call it. You know, you've learned a lot being on Team USA. You've gone to Spain, Slovakia, Sweden. What techniques have you learned?
Well, the Spanish nymphing technique, for one. I went to Vladi boot camp for Polish nymphing, and that was totally awesome. Another one is the French technique, which is probably it's got to be considered one of the most effective techniques in the world.
Well, you know so much about the French and have fished against them. Why don't you assist Vladi in showing all our viewers about the French techniques? You know, they've won, what, 6 world championships?
And 5 in a row at one point.
So you've learned something from them. Why don't you help us with Vladi so our viewers can see how effective the French techniques are?
That would be fantastic. Let's do it. Now that we're done demonstrating the Spanish nymphing technique on the river, let's take a look at the equipment needed for it. You're going to need a long rod, preferably 10 feet. The line is a weight forward. You can use a 4, 5, or 6. Now, as far as building the leader material, there are a few components that we need to talk about. I usually start off with a store-bought knotless leader, okay? I go with about a 9-foot 4X, and I snip it down to about 4 feet. So connected to our weight forward fly line, we have monofilament tapered leader. I usually attach it to a butt section with a barrel knot, and then you head on down the taper. This section would be about 4 feet. Then you get to your colored fluorocarbon. Some people use monofilament, but colored fluorocarbon is a preferred. And you can attach this with a barrel knot or even a surgeon's knot. Now, depending on how far away from you're fishing, this colored fluorocarbon can be about 2 feet, 3 feet. Then you attach it to straight fluorocarbon, and depending on your fishing conditions, again, it can be 3X, 4X, 5X, even 6X. Now, the depth of the water is really important here. If you're fishing a 3-foot hole, you want about 6 feet of straight fluorocarbon down to your flies. Then you get to your dropper fly. Now, the knot that connects the dropper is another barrel knot. This time, it has a long tag. You can see the dropper fly attached to the extra tag of the barrel knot. Then you head on down another couple feet until you get to the very end, the point fly of the leader system. And it's usually a heavy weighted fly, or an anchor fly, like what we like to call it. Now, as far as overall length of the leader, I say start off with 9 foot. 9 foot's the easiest thing that you can use to get out on the river right away. You can work yourself up to 15 feet and get out there and have fun with this awesome Spanish nymphing technique.